Hi, we are on to chapter 4 in our Camping Catastrophe book. And reminder, they just got camping, right? They were having some trouble setting up the tent because they didn't have the directions, right? And now they're going to look for some firewood. And this chapter is called Buzz. Robbie and I walked along the hiking trail, picking up small sticks as we went. Hey, look over there, I said, pointing to a pile of sticks near some rocks. It looks like someone else is gathering wood, but didn't use it all. I'm going to go over there and get it. Hang on there, Freddie, Robbie said, grabbing me by the shirt. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Why not? Remember what Jesse said about snakes and skunks? Yeah, so? Well, I don't think a person was collecting those sticks. You don't? Nope. That looks like a skunk's den over there. I think a skunk was gathering sticks for his house. Really? How do you know? I don't know for sure, but I was doing some research on the computer before we left. And that looks just like the picture of the skunk's den I saw on the internet. I will definitely stay far away from that, I said, holding my nose and backing away. I don't want to take any chances of getting sprayed by a skunk. I know what you mean, Robbie said, laughing. Skunks really stink. They are P.U. Let's get out of here. We started back down the path, but then, all of a sudden, Robbie stopped dead in his tracks. Shh, he whispered. He put a finger up his hand to stop me from walking any further. Look over there, he said, pointing to a big rock. What? Shh, over there, he pointed again. Where? On that big rock. There's a lizard. This time when I looked, I saw what he was pointing at. Wow, I think that's the biggest lizard I've ever seen. I know, his tail must be 6 inches long. Let's try to catch it. But your dad said we weren't allowed to catch any critters. He just said we couldn't bring any back with us. He never said we couldn't play with it here, I said. I quietly put down the sticks I had been carrying and slowly started to tiptoe toward the lizard. Robbie followed right behind me. You go that way, and I'll go this way, he said. I said, we'll try to surround him so he can't get away. We tiptoed closer until we were just inches away from catching the lizard. Okay, I mouthed to Robbie. On the count of 3, we grab him. I silently put up one finger at a time. We both pounced on the lizard and could feel his scaly skin beneath our fingers. I think we got him, I yelled. You think they caught him? But before we could close our hands around him, he slipped through our fingers and disappeared into the bushes. Shoot, I cried. We were so close. We almost had him. I know, said Robbie. I thought we had him too. Boy, he was fast. He was there 1 minute and gone the next. Bummer, I really wanted to keep him as a pet just for the day, since my mom would never let me have anything like that in the house. Maybe we can find another one later. We better finish collecting the firewood or your dad's going to wonder what happened to us. You're right, and we want to make sure we have enough time for fishing, so we better get going. We both picked up our little piles of sticks and continued on down the path, collecting more sticks as we went. We were almost done when Robbie stopped in front of a big tree. Why'd you stop? I asked. I'm just looking at something, he said, staring up at the branches. What? I think that's a beehive up there, he said, pointing to a branch not far from the ground. You think so? A real, live beehive? Yep. Do you think there are any bees in there? I don't know, maybe. I jumped up and tried to grab a hold of the branch so I could pull it down closer to me. Hey, Freddie, what do you think you're doing? I'm just trying to get a closer look. I've never seen a real beehive up close before. I've only seen pictures of them in books. And I think you should leave it that way. Do you remember what happened the last time you tried hanging from a tree branch? What? You ended up in the emergency room with a broken arm, that's what. No, you sound like my mom. I'm not going to break my arm, I said, still trying to jump high enough to grab the branch. Besides, Robbie continued, bees don't like it when you disturb their hive. Got it, I said, ignoring Robbie, and finally grabbing hold of the branch. I started to pull the branch down toward the ground to get a closer look when, snap! Uh-oh. Doesn't look good. The branch broke and the hive hit the ground. The jolt. At first, we heard a low buzzing sound. But then, all of a sudden, the buzzing got louder and louder. Then a gazillion angry bees burst out of the hive and headed right towards us. "Run for your life!" Robbie shouted. "It's a swarm! They're after us!" "Ah!" We both screamed as we took off running down the trail with a swarm of angry bees close behind. It was a close call, wasn't it? That's why you don't mess with a beehive. Chapter 5. I'll read this one as well. "Here, fishy, fishy." "Jump in the lake! Jump in the lake!" Robbie yelled. "The bees can't get us in there." We both dove into the lake with all of our clothes on and stayed underwater for a few seconds, hoping the bees would fly away. When we finally came up for air, the bees had disappeared. "Phew, that was a close one," I said to Robbie. "Yeah, a little too close. Next time, would you please listen to me? I know a lot more about animals than you do." "From now on, you're the boss," I said. Just then, my dad came down the path. "I thought I heard you two screaming. Is everything all right? And why are you in the lake? I thought I told you boys to collect firewood before you went swimming." We came out of the lake with our shoes sloshing and our clothes dripping wet. My dad stared at us for a minute. Then he said, "Would one of you like to tell me what's going on here?" "We had a little problem, Mr. Thresher," said Robbie. "I can see that. Exactly what kind of problem, Freddie?" "Well, we were being chased by a swarm of angry bees. We jumped in the lake so they wouldn't sting us." "A swarm of angry bees? That's scary. Why was a swarm of angry bees chasing you?" asked my dad. "Well, it's sort of a long story, Dad," I said, giving Robbie a help me out here kind of look. "We happened to be right under the tree branch when something disturbed the bees' hive, so they chased us, Mr. Thresher." Does Dad believe him? Maybe. They're not quite telling the truth, though, are they? "Really? Wow. I'm so glad neither one of you got stung. How about if we get in our bathing suits, hang those wet clothes up to dry, and do some fishing?" "Sounds like a good idea to me," I said cheerfully. We went back to the campsite, changed into our bathing suits, grabbed our fishing gear, and headed back to the lake. We found a nice big flat rock for all of us to sit on. It was right near the water's edge. "What kind of fish are in this lake, Mr. Thresher?" Robbie asked. "Trout. I hear they're really big ones, too." "I'm going to catch the biggest one in the lake," I bragged. "We'll see about that," said Robbie. "I'm a very good fisherman." "So, Robbie, have you been fishing before?" my dad asked. "Oh, yeah, lots of times, with my grandpa." "Well, this is the first time for Freddie and me," my dad said as he tried to hang the lute on the end of the line. "What's that, Mr. Thresher?" asked Robbie, pointing to the lure. "If you've been fishing before, then you must know what this is. It's a lure, bait for the fish." "Oh, I've never used one of those before." "You haven't?" I said. "Nope, never. My grandpa and I always use worms." "Worms?" "Yeah, worms." "You mean like gummy worms?" I asked. "No, real live worms. Real live ooey gooey squishy worms." "Yep, you can catch the best fish if you use worms." "Really? Can I try using one?" "Of course," Robbie said as he pulled a small jar of worms out of his pocket. "Hey, where'd you get those?" "I went digging in my yard early this morning. I found some big, fat, juicy ones." "Here," he said, pulling a worm out of the jar. "Try this one. You'll have all the trout in the lake trying to eat that." He handed me the wriggling worm, and I tried not to let it slip out of my fingers as Dad stuck it on the hook at the end of my fishing line. "Sorry, little guy," I said to the worm, "but you're about to be lunch for a fish." Then I cast the line out into the water. "Now what?" "Now you sit and wait," said Robbie. "If you're going to catch a big fish, then you have to be patient." We sat there quietly for a few minutes, but then I felt a little tug on the end of the line. Hey, I think I've got something. Reel it in, my dad yelled. I started to reel in the fish as fast as I could. "I think it's a big one," I shouted. See how his pole's starting to bend and it's getting tugged on by something? He's pulling pretty hard. I got the fish to the surface of the water. Look, do you see him, Dad? Do you see him?" But before my dad could say anything, the fish wiggled free and swam away, and I was left with nothing but an empty hook. "Shoot, he got away," I said, disappointed. "Here," said Robbie, handing me another one. "Try again." "But I'll never catch another fish that big. Did you see him?" "He was big, all right," said my dad, "and I'm sure there are plenty more like him in that lake. But you'll never catch anything unless you put your line back in the water." I stuck the fresh worm on the hook and threw it back in the lake. Then I waited and waited and waited. But I didn't feel even a single tug on the line. "Here, fishy, fishy, fishy," I called. "Come and get your lunch." Haha, Robbie laughed. "They're not dogs, Freddie. They don't come when you call." "Oh, yeah?" I said. "You're wrong, because I've got a huge one tugging on my line right now." I jumped to my feet so I could use more muscle to reel him in. I planted my feet firmly on the rock and started turning the reel as fast as I could. "That's it, Freddie," my dad yelled. "Keep reeling him in. You've almost got him. He's a beauty." "Don't worry, Dad. I won't let him get away this time," I shouted. "Look at him, Robbie. Look!" I screamed as I jumped up and down. Then, before I knew what was happening, my foot slipped, I lost my balance, and that fish pulled me splish splash right into the lake. Oops. "Hey, Freddie, what are you doing?" my dad yelled. "You're supposed to pull the fish out of the lake, not go in after him." "Ha ha, very funny, Dad," I said as he helped pull me out of the water. "I'm just teasing," said my dad. "Don't get too upset. I just can't believe I let that one get away too. And now I lost the fishing pole. It's somewhere at the bottom of the lake. It's not the end of the world. But if we don't catch any fish, then what are we going to eat for dinner?" "I brought along some hot dogs just in case the fishing didn't go as well as planned," my dad said, smiling. "So why don't you and Robbie go for a swim? What do you say?" I turned to Robbie. "Is that okay with you?" Robbie smiled, jumped up, and yelled, "Last one in is a rotten egg!" And then he jumped into the lake. Well, they didn't catch any fish, but looks like they had a good time fishing at least, right? All right. Chapter 6 for next time is called Pass the Marshmallows, Please. Ooh, maybe they're going to make some s'mores. See you next time.